And you are live.
Okay,
Governor, former governor, I mean, a couple terms ago. Real bad.
good morning. I'd like to call the Finance and Budget Committee to order and ask for a motion to approve last month's meeting minutes. Moved by Supervisor Bruno, and seconded by Supervisor Etu. Any corrections, additions? Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next is privilege of the floor, public comment. I think the treasurer has.
I just passed. Thank you. I just passed out an updated sheet from the tourism committee. I just wanted to bring a couple things to your attention. The top again is total collections. Where the bottom is the short-term collections, which is part of the top, or it's included in the total collections. You'll see the 5% with the 3 asterisks, we're up 5% in total collections. I basically said last week, no, it was earlier this week, that we're flat to declining. That's gonna change as we go. We're going into the down months because, you know, this is our high season is over, although we do have the annual filers left, which will be a nice bump. But when you take out the enforcement efforts of the Treasury Department has, you know, been going after people that haven't paid occupancy tax in a long time, and we've been rather successful. The team's done a nice job. When you take out our enforcement efforts, it's not 5%. When you subtract them, we're up 3%. And just so everybody knows, to date, we have collected 191,000 in OCTAX funds. Excuse me, to date, we've collected 150 or the 2%, which is why we're only up 3%. We are continuing to work on another 191,000. And just so you know, these guys that have not paid us in a very long time, we take the penalties and interest and that goes to the general fund. And to date, we've got 45,000 in the general fund that we've collected to date, and we're expecting to get another 58,000. So that's some good news. And again, we're closing all of those loopholes that have existed in the past. So this won't happen go forward or be much less. The last thing I just want to comment on is with regard to the numbers is we have had a soft year, softer than the past years. Again, it's going to be really hard to lap the COVID years. However, this year has been softer volume wise, not as many hotel rooms, but the hotel prices per night have gone up. I'm working with Gina, Minster, Heather, and Ethan Gaddy to get you better clarity on what that means and what we can expect this year and go forward. And then lastly, and I think you'll see on the back of this, I've got at least 3, possibly 4 people that I'm dealing with who are like, you know, why didn't you reach out to me and tell me about OCTAX? You know, you have to let me know. I've never heard of this. Then I have the people that are like, you know, why do I have to pay OCTAX? 3 guys down the road aren't paying OCTAX. I'm getting all, it's actually alarming. So this was something that Mike Swan came up with and the team brought it back to my attention. It may be a problem, so let me get back to you on this, but we were thinking about working with the towns and villages and putting a flyer out with your annual tax bills that simply gives everybody just a friendly flyer. Here's what they're if you're gonna short-term rental, this is what you need to do. Please contact the treasurer, explains the 4%. We're not putting in the law. It's just a very positive, hey, just want you to know this. Mr. Merlino told me there might be a problem with that. Because he's not sure if we can put things in with tax bills. There might be some kind of glitch there. So I'll get back to you and check that out. And finally, maybe another alternate is to just maybe partner with you by putting something out on your websites from the treasurer's office. So stay tuned on that one. Mr. Merlino?
What I told you was what I was told by my town clerk,
That's okay.
but I don't know if it is a law or not. You'd have to find it.
No,
She told me we can't anything to, because I wanted to put a flyer in our own tax bills, and she said you can't do that. No. I never checked it out, so.
No worries,
We went in a different direction.
I think actually putting it out in the tax bills is a great idea, but if there is a restriction, then, you know, we'll find another way.
Right.
But thank you.
Good, thank you. Alrighty, we'll move on to the action agenda, and the first item is a request for transfer of funds as attached.
Motion.
By Supervisor Sutton. Seconded by Supervisor Bruno. Any questions? Looks like health services and, there's no questions. I'll call the question on item one. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next is items to be discussed by the county administrator, Mr. Tafflin. And.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
your-
The first one, item 2A is the journal report, transfers that we approved. The ones that, maybe the ones that stuck out, there was one for $10,000 for paver rental, DPW, $20,000 for culvert pipes, and $7,500 for a settlement agreement. And the rest are supplies and repairs and maintenance issues. Any questions on anything you saw?
We just wanted to remove 2A through D. Is there a problem with that?
2A and 2B,
2A through D, A, B, C, D.
A, B, C,
A
D.
doesn't need approval. A is just the FYI.
Right. B, C, and D. Introduced by Supervisor Stroh. Seconded by Supervisor Bruno. Any discussion on B, C, and D? Do we actually have the money in the contingent?
We had $497,000 in the contingent. We're using 432,000 of that. So we put that in the contingent account in preparation for the CSEA contract.
And the C is a revenue, actually.
There's revenue from the state primarily for DSS employees.
Any other discussion on the items in number 2?
We appreciate your support for the $20.
Call the question on B, C, and D. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried. Next is request for items from the county treasurer. And A is a request to approve corrections to the tax rolls outlined in the attachment included with the agenda.
Thank you. Good morning. Again. So this is out of Glens Falls. And again, this is pilot payment in lieu of taxes for approximately $10,000. So it's pretty straightforward. Just a note of efficiency go forward. For whatever reason, I don't know, we've gotten 2 of these. Generally, this is done once a year. So we're going to work with Glens Falls to make sure, to see if we can't hit you with this once a year, because you may remember several months ago, we came to you with corrections on the tax roll as well as some write-offs for taxes that we couldn't collect. So any questions on that?
Get a motion on 3A.
Well,
Supervisor Merlino.
well, can we do 3A through 3G? I mean, they are all related, and beyond, overs, blah, blah.
Actually, B and D, if you don't mind, are a little bit separate, are a little different.
Yeah.
Maybe if I just talk to you about B and D, then you can do them all together.
Yeah, how about
Sure.
that?
Okay.
Okay.
I just want everybody to understand our short-term ban. Again, it made sense to roll it into the November bond. But that ban, basically, we did, on one hand, we did better. We were requesting in B, we're requesting to record $27,000 related to the $8.42 million ban, excuse me, that we did earlier this year. And then you'll see that it is, however, that money, that premium has to be used for debt service. So you'll see in D that we're actually requesting that money be paid down for the ban interest due in 2024. Then you'll see in E, forgive me, E is also related, that the ban principal indebtedness and the interest is $150,000. So basically that ban for 2024 ban that we then rolled into the bond in interest cost us about $177,000, excuse me. But again, we're working with that on on the bond, so it's not coming out of addition, of the general fund, it's coming out of the bond money. So, and then I would agree with Mr. Stroud that the rest are all related. I just wanted to bring that cost of the ban to your attention.
Well, I'll accept the motion for A, B, and D. The rest of them we're gonna do. Moved by Supervisor Girachi, seconded by Supervisor Bruno. Any discussion on those? I'll call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, now, item C, I think that we should do that separate. We're spending, unappropriated surplus money and,
Yeah, so this is again related to the ban and the bond, actually the bond, excuse me. So the $67,000 is, we weren't expecting to do the bond, so this is what's the expenses related to the bond issuance, and we didn't have it budgeted, so it does need more general. Questions?
someone care to move that? Supervisor Stroud, seconded by Supervisor Bruno. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
E?
E and F,
Enough. Again, I briefly mentioned this $150,000 before, but this is to transfer funds in 150 from the bond anticipation note principal indebtedness to the interest indebtedness. Again, that's the cost of the bond, of the ban, excuse me. Wait a minute. Of the bond anticipation note. And then sorry, this is the interest related to the bond, $150,000. Again, wasn't budgeted for, but we are, it's taken care of in the entire ask of the $21 million.
E and F, by Supervisor Strauss, seconded by Supervisor Merlino. Any questions? So by my calculations, we're applying $177,930.96 to interest.
Correct. And the last one, which is G,
Wait,
sorry,
call the vote on E and F, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And G,
yeah, the last one, I'm looking into this. So it looks like we had the agreement with Fitzgerald Morris Baker Firth through the end of 2023, and this is requesting that we now have it through the end of 2025. And because of the significant bond that we just put out, it's going from a minimum or not to exceed amount of $7,000 to a not to exceed amount of $25,000 if we should have another bond go forward. But again, if we don't, we won't come close to that.
care to move that? Supervisor Bruno? Supervisor Stroud? I think 25,000 is getting pretty pricey for bond work. That's just my opinion.
I can look into it and see if we can't adjust it. I think my bigger concern with this is I think we've been operating in 2024. So their last contract ended with us in December of 2023. So this is basically carrying us through 2025. But again, they're partners with us all along, but I just would like to see that it doesn't, we don't have a gap in contracts.
Should we table it until she looks into it?
I think she needs it for the, I think you need this though for the bond to close it out this year, don't
I
you?
do. I can come back to you and if you want me to look further into the 25, I'm sorry, I don't know off the top of my head. It was pricey, the cost of the bond. How much it costs, but not, I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know the cost of the,
Oh, we don't need to get on.
Item 3G, it says, in the past, it was about $7,000. It's $300 an hour, the previous resolution. It's not to exceed $25,000.
Right.
I don't think she's gonna need that, but yeah.
That's
'cause
correct.
we are
I don't
gonna
think
need
it's
funds.
gonna come.
We
close.
need to approve funds to move the bond forward.
Mr. Bruno?
But you'll talk to them about that 25,000, even though it's just a not to exceed number, I understand.
I'll get right back to you. I honestly, it's just escaping me at the moment how much their fees were for the current bond, but that's the only reason this might be that, but I don't think we're gonna go for this kind of a bond, or at least in my limited history.
So
Go ahead.
the previous agreement, what have you,
For 7,000, we haven't had a bond in quite some time.
right, but that was through, what did you say, 23?
Yes, 2023.
22? So maybe they're making up for some lost, not lost time, but that gap,
Yeah.
if you will. With the 25,000 with it.
Oh, no, wait a minute, that's right. That resolution extended it from 22 to 23.
Anyway. So you'll talk to them. Anyway.
I will, and I'll get back to you all and let you know exactly what I find out, but
Thank you.
I just can't remember off the top of my head, sorry.
All right, we do have a motion in a second. I'll call the question on 3G. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Number 4 is referrals from the county facilities committee. Supervisor Bruno. And it's for the airport. And it's a request to amend the 2024 county budget in the amount of $4,670.40. Surplus to festival plan. And put it into A691 deferred revenue. Cover the cost of overtime, FICA, Medicare, retirement expenses associated with the festival. Moved by Supervisor Etu. Seconded by Supervisor Geraci. Any discussion on item 4? I call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item 5 is from the Criminal Justice, Public Safety and Emergency Services Committee, chaired by Mr. Geraci. A is for or A, B, C, and D are for the sheriff. And A is a request to appropriate $497,500 from budget code A909, the general fund unappropriated surplus, to various budget codes within the sheriff's budget to address deficits created by increased utility expenses and unanticipated operating expenditures throughout the year.
Well,
Introduced by Mr. Bruno.
I have a question. That's okay.
We have a second. Seconded by Mr. Stroud. Yes, go ahead.
The, obviously, that's a sizable amount. Unanticipated operating expenditures, that's a pretty broad category. I wonder what's in there.
That's broke down in the back here. It's electricity, overtime and
Time and
part-time.
part-time.
It's about 100,000 in electricity, 200,000 and 210,000 in overtime and 185,500 in part-time salaries.
Thank you.
I'm on the committee, but I'm forgetting how do we not anticipate $100,000 and what caused an extra $100,000 in electricity? I know, I just don't remember. I was on the committee.
I think they had he had a chart that you saw with the increased cost, and primarily it was the electricity costs that have gone up, both in the jail and
Like kilowatt hour.
Somebody leave the lights on.
Thank you, Chairman. I think also they have a different mandate than a lot of the other departments. I mean, they have to keep it at a certain level, whereas,
Keep what in certain.
heat or air conditioning and all those types of things. It goes into the civil rights type of,
No, I understand that.
yeah. And oftentimes that department also, comes to us looking for additional gasoline money and those types of things. So it's, I think it's a educated guess or an experienced guess, at the beginning of the year. Or during the budget.
It ought to be experienced over
Yeah,
years
right,
of
yeah,
experience.
Yeah.
Maybe to be a little more accurate, so you could budget appropriate.
Well, the one thing that,
Yes, go ahead.
it's not new this year. Almost every year, I've been here 11 years. We've had to allocate extra money to the sheriff's department for overtime. Why can't they just fix that in their original budget?
Exactly.
You know, almost every year, and these are big numbers for overtime. I mean, I'm not contesting they weren't needed, why don't we just put it in the original budget?
Supervisor
Yeah,
Drive.
I'm not sure that in the budget preparation, that there's discussion about increasing the overtime, but to try to keep the cost level, it's reduced. I mean, it's a 24/7 operation. You never can tell what's gonna create overtime. But I understand your issue.
Every year.
Am I correct though about the
You
overtime?
are correct.
That's exactly what
We
happened.
try to keep it down.
It's generally, we try to keep it down in the budget. And it's generally the result of shortages, shortfalls in the sheriff. So right now, they're down 3 patrol officers or 4, I can't remember, and that causes the remaining patrol officers to have to work. And it's a little bit of a concern because we pay more than neighboring counties for our patrol officers, but we haven't been able to attract any. Now, we're competing with the state highway patrol who they get pretty good pay. So they tend to, people want to be state patrol officers before they want to be sheriff's officers.
Mr. Bruno.
But to Supervisor Strauss' point, which is a good one, which is where I was going, year over year, you're coming back outside the budget and asking for similar amounts every year. Why don't we just budget it to begin with? And if it's not used, we've got a surplus or what have you.
That's what I tried to explain, that in the budget preparation, the sheriff does ask for increased amounts.
Well, then obviously not enough. That's what.
Well, no, it isn't, I think it is enough, or it'd be closer to what he's looking for, but when the budget is prepared, I mean, you could ask the budget officer about it. There's reductions. That's one of the areas that's reduced.
Go ahead, Sean.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, sorry, we've reduced $500,000 out of the sheriff's request this year, so. If that's something we want to look at next year, then we should probably.
Right.
Thanks.
Part of it was with corrections also.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Because we were understaffed for years. And rather than budget the overtime, we figured that there would be money left over from vacancies.
It just seems, excuse me, to continue, it just seems that we could do a better job of budgeting. I understand your point, I agree. But if we're budgeting this month, then every year we're taking this much and we're taking out this much. Maybe we shouldn't take out quite as much. But anyway.
Well, okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any idea where, if we take out $500,000 from the general fund, where that hits the general fund? On there, right?
Yeah, well, we're down into, I think we're what,
Below 20?
I think the last, no,
Oh,
I think the last, I can pull it up. I think the last one, we were at about 1.7 over the,
Sorry, I have it.
you have.
I was gonna, can I talk about it?
Sure.
I was gonna say this at the end, at privilege of the floor, but thank you for letting me chat with you now. In October, I had mentioned that we were just below the $1 million mark. We were at 900,000. And I did my little cheat sheet. So with the sheriff's $498,000 the treasurer's, the bond, $67,000, and you haven't gotten it to it yet, but we're gonna ask for the competency exams. Health is asking for another 450,000. So we are now below by approximately $115,000 below our minimum surplus amount that we like to maintain, that we have a resolution on.
Hmm.
So couple of good points is that the sheriff, while he may have 1 or 2, 3 down, he is better staffed than he's been historically, and he's told me that his overtime should be much more, manageable this year. I think the competency exams are a wild card. I think that they continue to go up, and I know this board has talked about, talking to the state. It's a difficult situation. It's a state mandated state mandated exams that they used to contribute to, but they don't contribute to anymore. And it's all on the county. But the price of these things has gone up exponentially. I mean, it used to be $50,000-$75,000. You guys can speak to it better than I can. And now I will tell you, while I think that we, may be able to manage the sheriff's overtime within budget this year, given his staffing, I know the competency exams, I don't think we're budgeted for what, if we experience similar claims to then this year, I think we're gonna have a shortfall.
Oh, without a
So-
doubt.
I think we budgeted $650,000 for them again this year. That's what we budgeted last year. We're at about 1.4 million on these. And just on a point on that, I did bring that up to a NISAC rep who was at the intercounty meeting yesterday. It was not on his radar screen at the level that it needs to be. So I think we might see NISAC engaging on this, but he also, I'll take this opportunity since we're chatting. He was a little bit optimistic about state funding and also federal funding beginning next year. New York is not on the favorites list. There's a good chance, and he mentioned a couple items, Medicaid and temporary assistance for needy families, TANF. We're probably not going to see federal funding for that, and the state has no intention of providing counties with funding. The state's approach is it'll fall on the taxpayers and the counties to provide these services. So it's not a real rosy picture, I don't think, coming forward into next year on any chance of getting additional state funding for any of these types of things. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Welcome. Okay, we're back to item 5A, the Sheriff's Department. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Yes. Nope, I'll call the question on it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And I think this doesn't excuse the sheriff that he doesn't have to manage his own.
Yeah.
That's part of it too. Item 5B is a request to appropriate $5,000 from budget code 889 reserves, that DWI, to the A 3325-469 stat DWI program. Other payments and contributions cover the cost of the payment made to the New York State Department of Corrections and Community Supervision Attica Correction Facility to reimburse them funds paid to an inmate whose sentence was overturned. Moved by Supervisor Geraci. Seconded by Supervisor Stroh. Any discussion on 5B? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5C is a request to amend the county budget to reflect the appropriate revenue and expense codes for the first half of the 2024-2025 school resource officer agreement. Moved by Supervisor Driscoll, seconded by Supervisor Eaton. Any discussion on that item? I'll call the question. 5C, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5D is a request again to amend the 2024 budget The amount of 21,481 reflect proper appropriations in the 2024 Sheriff's 911 Center, 2020 interoperable communication grant. Introduced by Supervisor Etu, seconded by Supervisor Driscoll. I'll call the question on 5D, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, number 6 is the referrals from the Health Services Committee. And from the Office of Community Services, and it's a request to appropriate $450,000, again from the general fund unappropriated surplus. To budget code A 4390-435, psychiatric expense criminal. Cover the court ordered New York State criminal procedure law 730 competency examinations and restoration expenses through the remainder of the year.
Skip.
If you look at that, we grossly underestimated that, but we started with 50,000 last year. In the budget, in February, we added 250. In June, we added 300,000. In September, we added another 500,000 to the cost.
1.55.
It was 1.1, million. So, but we started with 50. That's.
Right.
Now, the state used to pay half of these costs. This past year, they decided not to pay any.
Yeah, and we used to budget 25,000 and didn't spend it most of the time. So. Here, move this forward, or we can say, I don't know, can we say no? Why can't we say no? Yeah. They won't pay it. What happens then?
That's a good question, Mr. Chairman. I'm gonna have to look into this. I'm not.
They are court ordered.
They're court ordered and
But it's, can I, not allowed to speak.
Mr. Chairman.
The state orders, the judge orders somebody to go get a psychiatric exam. They're taken to a state facility where they're examined. The state sets how long the person needs to sit there. And then sends Warren County a bill for it. We have no say in this. He brought this up at, when we went to the ARCC, we brought it up to one of our state reps who was in attendance that day. And made it known that, this is getting out of control, these costs. Our rep, the rep that was there that day said she wasn't aware of it. That the state was pouring the costs on. So, it's a catch-22. We need help from the state of New York. But like John said, yesterday, we heard the counties may be getting more charges pushed on them in the future. All I can say is, if you have any influence with the legislature, just make them aware of this. Like, we make that this was not represents our area, but it's going to continue unless we get our point across. And just one other thing on those costs of the sheriff's department, that was explained in committee. He explained those costs in the committee. There was the reason the electrical costs shot up a lot this summer, and I don't know if it was because of the year, but he explained that all. The overtime costs have been going on for years, and that was one of the things that I think, Frank, you've been working on in the budget to try to alleviate that. And when you don't have officers, you're gonna pay time and a half. Your time and a half is gonna go up, but your straight time costs will go down. So you really need to compare what they're paying for the straight time. Your straight time costs go down and your overtime costs will go up. So I didn't realize he was three officers shy until just the other day. He said he was 3 patrol officers shy. But this thing with the state, it's a runaway train. So when you see your reps, you should keep mentioning it to them. That you know, this is more cost gonna be pushed onto the thing, and I was surprised yesterday when we heard that we may be the state may get more bad news sent to us from the federal government.
Right.
So everybody has to play ball.
I guess we don't want to be in contempt of court.
But that,
Or in contempt of New York State, I guess.
yeah, that's, I've said this before. I mean, it's a ridiculous situation like the Fox Garden and Hen House. The state mandates this, then they determine how long the individuals stay there.
Right.
We have no say except pay the bill.
Pay the bill, and they used to help us with defray some of the costs.
Yeah.
They don't make.
And we have people staying, we've had people stay in these facilities run by the state up to 6 months.
Yeah.
You know, while they're determining, you know, we're at the mercy of the psychologist or psychiatrists who are there who are determining whether someone is capable of standing trial.
Right, and do you think for 1 minute that it ever enters into anybody's mind, how much is this costing a county?
All the counties are seeing.
That's, yeah, we're gonna, 52 counties hand in hand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't. Tell you that. Anyway.
Who wants to move it forward?
You have a choice.
I don't think we do.
I mean, I'll move it, I'm not happy about it.
Moved by Supervisor Stroud, seconded by Supervisor Dirachi. Well, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I'm opposed.
One opposed.
Oh, as well.
Two opposed. I think we have to keep talking about it though, because can't afford it. Maybe we can find another facility that doesn't charge us much.
Well, RFP.
That's the all state-run facilities.
My father was a psychologist for the state who evaluated incarcerated sex offenders for OMH. He was one of these guys.
You still working?
He passed away.
Oh, sorry.
I should have said that.
Talk to me.
Up front, it requires 2 independent psychologists, psychological evaluation. So we've just seen a tendency, I believe, and I defer to the county attorney on that, if they know, a tendency of defense attorneys to ask for, to state that their clients are incapable of standing trial or understanding the charges. Takes 2 independent psychologists to make the recommendation that they be remanded to a state-run facility for evaluation. And they make that recommendation to the court and the judges approve.
So that's a good defense ploy.
Yeah.
At our expense.
Okay, next up is public health, 6B, and it's a request to amend the 2024 Warren County budget in the amount of $110,565 to reflect receipt of the 3rd year of infrastructure workforce data systems grant funding from New York State. Moved by Supervisor Etu, seconded by Supervisor Merlino. Any discussion on 6B? Call the question, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? 6C. The request to authorize the county auditor to make a one-time payment of $125 to city and country appliance repair for the service and assessment of a refrigerator in the Health Services Department, which is used for vaccine storage. Okay. Didn't go through the committee for approval. Supervisor Etu, seconded by Supervisor Bruno. Any discussion? I'll call the question on 6C. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 7 is a referral from the Human Services Committee, chaired by Supervisor Driscoll, Department of Social Services. And this is to amend the Warren County budget for 2024 in the amount of $155,133. And this is for receipt of grant funding from the New York State Office of Temporary and Disability Assistance. Cover the cost of the contract with the Open Door mission from October 24 through the remainder of the year. By Supervisor Merlino. Seconded by Supervisor Driscoll. Any discussion? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is this for the open door,
The Code Blue, yeah, this is the Code Blue program with, they've had some nights, and I believe the months of December and January, they'll be open all nights, even if we have some of this unusually warm weather.
And we split it 50-50 with Washington County?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Item 8. This, I think we could probably do A, B, and C. This is a request from the Park Operations and Management Committee, chaired by Supervisor Moreno, and it's to reimburse the village from parking fees for the month of June, August, and September. And the total amount is $9,012.45. Moved by Supervisor Bruno, seconded by Supervisor Stroud. Any questions?
This is all those.
Right. 8A, B, and C. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 9 is referrals from the Public Works. 9A is to request to establish capital project H 439 Diamond Point Road, County Route 35 over Smith Brook West in the amount of $1,500,000.
Chairman, could we batch A through F, please? I think they're all increases or establishments for infrastructure type of stuff.
So introduced by Supervisor Driscoll, 9A through F, seconded by Supervisor Garachi. Mr. Hayjos, do you have any comments on any of these?
I really don't. Most of these are either Culvert, New York, Bridge, New York, or federal aid projects, and it's just to increase the cover, whether it's cost for engineering work. The 2 established are the 2 brand new Culvert, New York projects that we just received. And this will get us started on the projects, moving them forward towards construction. So there's not really a lot more to add besides that.
What happens with the 12 million that goes just into
That's gonna go into a capital project, and then it'll be used based on what I said the other day in Public Works Committee, that our consultant is finishing the assessment, and the finish of the assessment right now is to determine priority culverts to be attended to. So this amount of money, as I said before, is certainly great to get us a kickoff. It will certainly not cover the issues that we have with all our pipes, but it'll be a good start in moving us and repairing some of those culverts. And this will be a program, as we talked about in budget, that will probably continue this throughout the years.
I just want to add that these culvert replacements are not culvert replacements. Many, if not most, are turning into culvert replaced by bridge, which increases the price threefold. I mean, so a replacement of a culvert, probably 500,000. With the bridge, it's $1.5 million for these larger situations, because the DEC and the 1.25 width requirement creates a bridge situation. It creates a lot of cost, but it does make that particular flow of water underneath it more resilient to the larger storm events that we've been having. But so I can relate what Kevin is saying, and 12 million won't cover what needs to be done for the county. But
Yeah, and Supervisor Trout is correct. The new DEC guidance or regulation with the opening has to be either 1.25 or 1.5 times the bank full width. A lot of these, and he knows firsthand because the bridge culvert, that was an 8-foot culvert that we replaced on Bay Road, turned into a 27-foot bridge. So there's a difference right now. Now, the fortunate part for us is the culvert New York ones that we put in, we kind of took that into account for design. But culvert New York, you'll see both those projects are $1.5 million projects. That's all culvert New York will allow us to have. So if there's an increase or DEC comes back with something more and they turn into bridges as opposed to culverts, I will certainly look to use whatever funding we may have in our projects to cover the increase that they may need in size. So.
Any other questions or discussion? Call the question on 9A through F. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We have 9G. This is a request to authorize a new contract with the Warrensburg Collision Center Incorporated for auto body repair services to the terms and provisions of specifications of the Warren County 6324 and a proposal for a term from January 1st, 2025 through December. With two optional 1-year extensions, and this did not go before the Health Services Committee. No, probably not.
Oh, you have it.
Someone care to?
8G.
9G, coached by Supervisor Bruno.
Yeah, do you have it?
Don't have it.
No. Okay. Yeah. Make a motion.
Second by Supervisor Ely. Any discussion? Don't, it's as needed.
Yeah, I'll talk to it really quickly, is I had a transition in my department. Dan Smith, who's been a longtime fleet and equipment manager, has retired. And this kind of came in between his retirement and my new fleet and equipment manager, Jeremy Bradway. So it got kind of missed. I didn't get it on my agenda for DPW. So I had asked Amanda if I could bring it forward to at least get it so we can pass it. This is just a term agreement. There's no necessarily commitment to this. We have a body shop in our garage already. This gets to the point where if we have significant damage or frame damage that we cannot do in the shop, we take it typically to them. Just a term agreement contract.
Call the question on 9G, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Number 10 is Finance Committee. Action is required on the following personnel agenda items. And agenda item 3 and 4F. First one, 3 is for to amend the table of organization and salary schedule to a probation officer training. And it's grade 16, base salary 55,602, and unfund and retain in the table the position of probation officer. This would be effective December 23rd of this year. Moved by Supervisor Bristol. Seconded by Supervisor E2. Any discussion on that? Call the question on 10, item 3. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the last one, item 4. This is a transfer of funds to the county attorney's office in the amount of $35.38. Going to fund overage of county attorney salaries and overtime budget. Moved by Supervisor Bruno, seconded by Supervisor Stroud. Call the question on 10, item 4. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we do have, more items here too. Have an addendum? Sure.
So this addendum agenda, if you look at items 1 through 15, that's to approve contracts that were all approved through the 2025 budget. And you'll see that for each of items 1 through 15, there's a draft resolution behind that shows the who the money's going to and what, but these are all amounts that you approved in the budget. We just need to approve the contracts. So if you have a mind to, I guess you do one motion to authorize 1 through 15.
So moved by Supervisor Bruno, seconded by Supervisor Stroud. Any discussion or questions on 1 through 15? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And then items 16 through 27, those, we don't have attachments yet for, those are standard annual resolutions that are all related to the budget as well. I can't give you those numbers yet because we're still working with real property to get those, but of course we'll have, the resolutions will be out for the board meeting. We just need to get the authority to get the resolutions going. So we'll have to do out of committee, which is a whole nother process. So I think if you want, if you could make a motion to approve 16 through 27, that'll give us the authority to get those resolutions in the works.
Moved by Supervisor Stroud, seconded by Supervisor Geraci. Any questions or discussion on any of those items, 16 through 27?
So this will just allow you to create the resolution.
Yeah, so like the fixing the tax rates, those are all based on what we get off the town budgets. Then we have to do this spreadsheet to show what the actual tax rate is for each individual district. So we're still working with real property to get that done. We probably won't have those until first week of December. So we'll have them for sure for the resolutions, but then, there's other things that are unpaid school taxes from the different towns. So until that information comes in, we can't put it in a resolution yet. When you see them come out, you'll see there's a bunch of charts with different numbers and things on them. So we'll have them. We just didn't have them for this resolution.
Anything else? Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I think that covers the entire.
Privilege of the floor and public comment. Yep.
Just one last comment on the general fund. We are below the minimum fund balance. I like to call it, we're cut to the bone. We're actually in the bone at the moment. So we don't have a lot of flexibility here. I know it's a recommendation, it's a resolution, it's what we're supposed to maintain, but and I do know that, when we finally get to year end, which we figure out in April, when we finish the books, we may be in a better position, but going into next year, this is pretty serious. I'm concerned. But what really, again, I'm cautiously optimistic about the overtime with the sheriff. But I'm struggling to wrap my head around these competency exams, how we can go from $25,000 to $50,000 to $1.4 million, $1.5 million. I understand that you're talking to NISAC, and I understand, but does the state not have to explain these increases in cost? Do we not get details on these things? I mean, can we not challenge this? Can we not audit it? Can we not investigate it?
I think
I
it's
would.
the number of individuals that are involved in it. I think it's less. There's like eight individuals that were in this program.
8. There were, the first half of the year, there were 8 in the program. They charged $1,400 a day. The cost through the first 5 months, I believe, was $683,000 for those 8 individuals.
So in prior years, we had like nobody in this program?
Pretty much.
And you're asking that, yeah.
No,
I mean, I think this is a question really for the, probably, Human Services.
Yeah.
Mr. York?
Yeah, for Rob York.
And then if I could just add one other
This committee probably.
comment, Mr. Bruno said, potentially it's a ploy on the defense, to kind of delay their. Okay, sorry. No, all I'm saying is if you need 2 independent examiners to say that this person, I would think that's the check and balance that, you can't do that, but to go from 25 to 50, I will, if you don't, I will follow up with Mr. York just to get a better understanding. And if I can help in any way, just please let me know.
Appreciate that.
Anything else for the committee?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. If I may, just a couple more, things that came out of the inter-county meeting yesterday. One probably not so great, another one probably could be good. We've had a lot of discussion about sales tax on short-term rentals and that bill. The word is the governor has said if it comes forward to her desk with the statewide registry requirement attached to it, she'll veto the bill. NISAC went back to the originators of the bill and asked if they would remove the registry requirement from the bill. And the responses were no, they would not. So what NISAC is attempting to do is negotiate a type of agreement that would let maybe the towns or the county have registries at the county level. And we would be responsible for code enforcement then for short-term rentals. The thing is, the governor has called for all the unsigned bills, 280, to be delivered to our desk on December 7th. This would be one of those 280. NISAC then would have, because next week is Thanksgiving week and the state's not going to be fully staffed, they have about 1 week before the 7th to come up with an agreement. So not optimistic, but again, they say that's $100 million in income for the state. So there is certainly some incentive for the state to resolve this, but it's not looking as great as it might have been at the beginning of the year.
Just so I understand this bill would want to create a statewide registry?
Correct. This,
Quite understand
the
that.
two issues
That
with
I don't
that,
have.
yeah, the two issues with that are Airbnb objects to that because they believe that their clients would be responsible for potentially additional expenses going forward that the state may impose. But the other issue was there is no state organization who's been willing to take this on. So there's pushback from the state departments who've said, yeah, we're not doing this. So that's part of it as well.
State's gonna do what they wanna do. Whether you have a statewide registry or not, they're gonna impose additional penalties, sanctions, whatever you wanna call it. That's just me. Thank you.
The other thing that came out is there apparently is some new grant funding that I talked about where we stood with our regional morgue, and an ISAC rep was there. Seemed to be pretty optimistic that we have the opportunity to possibly get some statewide funding to help us with the regional morgue. He thinks it's a great idea. He wants to help with it. He said there's nothing in the state that has ever been done like this, but there are a couple models of something similar that were done with county partnerships, 3 counties at one point and 4 in another. He's going to get us in touch with those folks, get us in touch with attorneys who could probably help, maybe even a project manager. And the fact that we have a potential for a mass casualty facility, he thinks that Jackie Bray, the Department of Homeland Security, would be interested in talking to us on that as well. So right after the first of the year, we'll get together with him. I'll probably Kevin and his team, and we'll get together and start coming up with a good plan.
Do you know if he understands the implications down the road that we've talked about a lot, where hospitals are getting out of business, so autopsies and whatnot? I don't blame them. And what the implications, ramifications are for municipalities, counties, what have you.
He was very familiar with that. In fact, he was very, he knows Dr. Sikorica. He knows of Rensselaer County's intent to at one point have a morgue. So he was familiar with all that. He also said, and we didn't know that, the University of Rochester has just developed a forensic pathologist program up there. He thinks we could probably get some type, if we had a regional morgue, we could get some relationship with them where they with internships and things like that in our facility, so.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you, Chairman. The City of Glens Falls Common Council is meeting for their bi-monthly meeting this coming Tuesday. And the major agenda item or public hearing is going to be in regards to short-term rentals. And they've been doing a lot of planning and strategic work regarding that issue, and the public will have the opportunity to kind of weigh in on that on Tuesday night. I think they start at 7:30, although sometimes public hearings start a half hour or so earlier. Just a couple of quick announcements. I wanted to congratulate the town and village of Lake George for the what I read yesterday about the proposed Dennis Dickinson park facility. I think that's a wonderful testimony to a real great community leader, and looking forward to going over to Gurney Lane 2, I guess it's being called now, proposal. I also want to congratulate Supervisor Stroh. The Warren County Historical Society has named him the recipient of the award for Judge Austin Award, and that's, I think, sometime in mid-January that they'll have the luncheon for that. So
Thank you.
Congratulations.
congratulations.
See that I've already broke the rules.
Yeah.
I can only be punished. But anyways, I would say that if we're running into problems with fund balance, we ought to go to our departments and see how much money we're owed by the state of New York, how much money we're waiting to get refunded from the state of New York, because I believe in certain areas we've been waiting on refunds from the state of New York, which would help our fund balance if they would pay us. So I would ask the administrator maybe to put out a call to their departments to get refunded from the state and ask them how much are they holding back. I know on
We
a
can do
local level, it's been difficult to get the state to make their payments to the community, so.
And I think some of these go back more than a year.
yeah, wasn't there some reconciled Medicaid dollars that are outstanding? Where's that?
I don't remember the exact amount, but I believe there's some Medicaid dollars.
Just a quick follow-up for the administrator on the short-term rentals. So I realize this is early, but you mentioned that the county would take over the actual code enforcement of that process. What would happen at the local level? Local level code enforcement, county code enforcement?
I think the model, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the model that we actually talked about was one that the chairman has over in Warrensburg, where it's basically Warrensburg has the registry. We're saying the treasurer has done a great job getting our own registry, knowing all the, we know pretty much where all the short-term rentals are, or we're on track to identify the rest. Whether it's code enforcement done at the county or at the municipal level, I think that's,
I'm talking.
yeah,
Really, now, but anyways, we do our own enforcement.
That's the point.
You put and I don't know why the state wants to get involved in enforcement of short-term rental laws by community. John has his own, everybody has their own set of rules. So let the communities do them, and I know it's worked pretty well on us. We've had our law in place for 4 years. We've had 3 enforcement actions against different short-term rentals. That's it.
All right.
So for the state to muddy the waters, I don't know, it really amazes me when you get into one of these things that's right, and I don't understand how they can turn their back on $100 million worth of sales tax. The state of New York would turn their money on $100 million worth of sales tax because of a registry or something like that, that the governor doesn't like. Obviously, it's some lobbying effort. has, you know, made it, but. You know, ours works. I think the ones that have them work pretty good. They ought to leave it to the localities. I mean, obviously, I'd love this, there's tax generated from it, that anything help us. But that's what we told them yesterday, and I don't think NICEAC understands the ones that have their laws, do they? I didn't get that impression. That they always know what we're doing on the local level.
I don't think they did.
Thank you.
But on the more, it was very promising. He really was engaged on getting a regional more, helping us with that. Great. It was a good meeting yesterday, I thought.
Anything else from anyone? A motion to adjourn. Supervisor
Happy
Stroud?
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving. Right.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Somber
We are adjourned.